Oh, you guys didn't hear? Me and Ninetales were kind of a thing now. Yeah, it's my girlfriend. Or boyfriend. I don't care. It's beautiful. I love it, and we're going to get married. Hi, this is Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, and I'm back with another Pokemon Unite guide. If you check out my channel, I have a bunch of guides on there. Alolan Ninetales is today's guide. We are going to go over the best builds, all the held items and battle items that work for Alolan Ninetales, its moveset, and we're going to show some footage of gameplay using these builds. Woo! That was one heck of a sentence, and I got through it. It's probably more than a sentence, but I really strung it together like one big sentence. All right, let's get into it. Alolan Ninetales. Look at that offense. Look at that endurance. Alolan Ninetales is very squishy. When enemies dive on you, you are in trouble. But if you can use Alolan Ninetales correctly, you control the battlefield, you freeze everyone, or, using one of my favorite builds, you dazzle them with fairy light. I mean, I guess that's what you're doing, but boy, I like the fairy build. All right, let's get into the moveset for Alolan Ninetales. There's my sweet boyfriend or girlfriend, Alolan Ninetales. At level 1 and then 3, you get Powder Snow and Icy Wind. Either one's fine. I usually start, now I don't even remember. Icy Wind, I think. It's irrelevant. I don't put much stock into the first move. I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't know why you'd really care about it. You level up so fast in this game. It's pretty irrelevant, but maybe a jungler, it matters. Actually, for a jungler, it does matter. Here's where things get interesting. Level 4, you get a choice between Avalanche and Dazzling Gleam. Both of these are great moves, honestly. Avalanche, you attack with a gust of chilly ice towards the designated area. The ice forms that wall that you see. Alolan Ninetales can use this to devastating effect to help control the battlefield. You can wall off enemies, so you're only letting one Pokemon in, or you put the wall down and you hold someone there so your whole team can dive on them. It's such a great power. The ice build and the fairy build for Alolan Ninetales are so good. Something important to notice with this is the attack actually does damage twice. It does damage when you first use it, and then later the wall explodes. It says it melts and collapses, but you get it. It kind of explodes and deals damage. So it also decreases movement speed of Pokemon when it levels up at level 11. So a great move all around. You do good damage, and you also control the battlefield. Alolan Ninetales specializes in this hybrid of a support attacker. It's very cool. I know my girlfriend, I know Alolan Ninetales' whole thing is ice, right? But man, the fairy build for Alolan Ninetales is so fun. Dazzling Gleam attacks with this little cone of blinding light, leaving the opposing Pokemon unable to act. So it hits them and it stuns them in that moment. When you upgrade this at level 11, it increases the damage dealt and the length of time that they're unable to act. I like this even more somehow. I didn't think it would be possible because you see the ice build built almost every time. I think the fairy build is a little more specific than the ice build. It's a little tougher to play, and it's somewhat based around what your team is doing, but I don't know. I love it. All right, let's move on to the next two moves. The next two moves are Blizzard and Aurora Veil. Blizzard is a howling blizzard in 2 blasts that deal damage. It's interesting because I think you might not notice that these attacks are both doing 2 sets of damage. If you look closely, you can see it here. First set and then second set right after with a big gush. Gush? Gust. And of course, this combos well with your first ice ability because if that second blast hits an obstacle, it deals damage to Pokemon near the point of impact. So basically, you combo those moves together. You get someone stuck near that wall of ice, and then when you fire that blizzard at them, you do even more damage to everyone around it. It's why you see the moves paired together so much. It's quite the combo. And now on to Aurora Veil. That's right, an Aurora Veil. This time of year, centralized directly in this Ninetales build. May I see it? That's an old reference. This Aurora Veil is such a cool power. I really love the fairy build for this. So it creates a small circle around you and allied Pokemon. And inside of it, your movement speed is boosted and your basic attacks all become boosted attacks. We'll talk about what a boosted attack means for Alolan Ninetales here in 1 second. Also, it reduces damage received by you and your ally inside this little bubble. You can see me set it up here for this little team fight we have, and all of my attacks are boosted during it. It's just, oh, so cool. Moving on to my partner's Unite move. Ninetales' Unite move, you actually just saw it there in that clip, is Snow Globe. It attacks with chilly snow and ice, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area, and it deals increased damage to opposing Pokemon that are frozen. It's a little tricky to time this correctly, I would say. If you're conscious of it and you play a lot of Alolan Ninetales, you can take advantage of the increased damage to frozen Pokemon. A decent Unite move. It's just an area of effect, big of damage. I hope that was descriptive enough. Alolan Ninetales passive is one of my favorite in the game. It has that little bit of ice that drops on enemies anywhere on the battlefield just from time to time, which is really, really nice. It decreases their movement speed. Your boosted attacks sling snow, and your abilities do, except for Aurora Veil. You hit the target multiple times, you see that little ice crystal form over them, and then they become frozen. This obviously combos right there with its basic attack becoming boosted with every third attack. It deals damage to nearby opposing Pokemon and decreases their movement speed. This happens with every single attack you use when you're inside of Aurora Veil, by the way. So, I don't know. It's pretty great. Man, I love the fairy build. As far as battle items go, I'll give you my personal preference, which would be X attack, maybe, but eject button. I think eject button is kind of the best item for everyone. Get in, get out, get on with your life. Is that a saying? Did I make that up? I couldn't have made that up. I just think it's probably the best battle item for most all Pokemon right now. Let's talk held items. Held items are a little difficult because, let's face it, we don't all have enough money to upgrade all the held items. It's actually pretty intense how long it's going to take to upgrade a lot of these. So you're probably going to roll with what you got. I really like Shell Bell. It's my favorite held item, and I think it works well on Alolan Ninetales. It works well on a lot of Pokemon. Just getting life back for using moves is pretty good. I also really like the Muscle Band. You're going to be doing a lot of basic attacks with Alolan Ninetales, so it's just increasing the damage by 1% of the opposing Pokemon's remaining HP, which also, of course, scales the more you upgrade it. It's a great item for anyone doing a lot of auto attacking. I run Wise Glasses on a lot of attack Pokemon. You're doing a lot of special attacks generally every time your moves are off cooldown, so I think a broad boost to special attack is pretty good for Alolan Ninetales. I hadn't noticed this little example sets button, but if you hit Y, they can show you some recommended builds. I don't love a lot of them, but one of them has a crit muscle band build that I thought was pretty good. There's the build that I'm using right now. Let's move it on down here. Yeah, focus band. I think that's okay. This one I think is pretty interesting and could work well for Ninetales. Shell Bell, as well as the scope lens and muscle band. A great build for Ninetales because you're doing a lot of basic attacks. Your basic attacks are working pretty hard for you, especially with the fairy build. Let's take a look at these two builds. Here we are going that fairy route with Dazzling Gleam and Aurora Veil. I love dropping an Aurora Veil right here and just boom, every basic attack is boosted. My defense is boosted. My allies are boosted. This encounter right here shows how good that Aurora Veil and Dazzling Gleam are. You pop the Aurora Veil and you can stay alive longer. Dazzling Gleam stuns them longer so that you can live. Of course, this Zeraora thought that they could dive me, but with these two together, surprisingly, I'm able to withstand him. It's a pretty great combo. It's my favorite way to play Ninetales, and the only issue with it is that it's pretty team reliant, because if your team decides to never hang out in the Aurora Veil and you never have any backup, I don't know. It just feels like you might be wasting it a little bit. But if your team decides to fight inside the Veil and you can set up team fights there, you are a brutal member of the team. Such a fun build. That is the fairy build for Alolan Ninetales. Now moving on to the ice build. Obviously the ice build is much more popular. You see most of the Alolan Ninetales with that. I accidentally used my eject button there. That was a pretty dumb move. One thing you'll love is in any alley like this, you can catch people. I just caught that Venusaur there, caught that Haunter there on the other side of the ice. If you're playing this correctly, you're not only doing a ton of damage, but you're really controlling the flow of battle. You're deciding which enemies can get in with your Avalanche, which ones get pushed away with your Blizzard, and at what times you decide to just go all in and start attacking. A seriously legit build. Something great that Alolan Ninetales can do is hold this little alley between your team and Zapdos. As I've said before, Alolan Ninetales is quite squishy, so when you have to run, its abilities are great as well when you're using Ice. You can push away an entire enemy team with Blizzard, and you can block off an entire alley with Avalanche. It's really nice, and there's that eject button. Used it correct that time to get out of there. You want to stay on the edges of the battlefield with Alolan Ninetales. You don't want to be right up in the thick of things. If you find yourself in a situation like this, get out fast, maybe use your Unite move, and then once you back out, you can start your attack again. Tons of basic attacks, and again, controlling the battlefield with those two abilities. Something that takes some practice and you should be careful of is that you don't use Blizzard to push a Pokemon away that you're about to knock out, and that you don't use Avalanche in a way that actually hurts your team. Try being mindful of how you're using those two abilities. Well, there you go. Those are two of Alolan Ninetales' best builds. You can do a combination of the two. I've played it a few times. Right now, I think these are the most successful builds to run, either the full Fairy line or the full Ice line. Again, I'll be playing more of this game, more Alolan Ninetales, and if I feel like things change, of course I'm going to make another video. Let me know what you think in the comments. What build do you often go with Alolan Ninetales, and what guide would you like to see next from me? Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. This is Jake, your resident content cowboy here, saying goodbye. Come on, Alolan Ninetales. Let's go on a date. What do you mean we're not dating? Oh, you silly Ninetales. We're dating.